Hey, welcome or welcome back. Look, I'm no C64 pro, that's not a surprise to my viewers, and outside of RPGs and turn-based strategies I'm pretty hopeless, but that's part of the fun. Today we're checking out some quote-unquote fresh C64 releases that prove this machine still has plenty of surprises. Let's jump right in. Now this one sets the tone right away. Lababa is the Morts, Labubu. Let's not kid ourselves, I'll never manage to pronounce its title right, but it is a gothic platformer originally made by the indie dev Locomalito and then lovingly ported to C64. In Labubu you play as a monk fleeing persecution, exploring creepy catacombs full of traps and secrets. It's moody, it's atmospheric, and it shows just how much storytelling you can pack into chunky pixels running on the machine that's probably older than many of us. It released in 2020 and it's a perfect mix of retro charm and modern indie sensibility. Next up, we have something a little lighter. Thematically at least, as gameplay-wise is actually pretty challenging. Millie and Molly is a puzzle platformer where you guide two characters, let's call them sisters, through clever designed single-screen puzzle platforming levels by pushing blocks, rewinding mistakes, and using your brain more than your reflexes. It's got that just one more level vibe, and the puzzles are surprisingly addictive if you're into the whole using your brain thing. If you're all about action though, it's definitely a skip for you. Millie and Molly released in 2020 and it's a proof that C64 can still deliver brain teasers that feel fresh and satisfying. Alright shooter fans, here's your new fix. Zeta Wing is a vertical shoot 'em up inspired by arcade classics like Truckstone. It offers smooth scrolling, colorful and varied enemy sprites, huge bosses, numerous different weapons, multiple levels parallaxing and a soundtrack that slaps harder than Sid chip should legally be allowed to. Zeta Wing 2 released in 2023 and it's so polished and well made that it's one of those games that make you forget you're playing on an 8-bit hardware.
Round 2, fight!
Ever wanted to be a giant monster, reliving Godzilla vs King Kong fantasy yourself? Of course you haven't, you're not crazy. Or maybe you are, who knows, I've no way of checking other than reading your comments. So do, comment that is. Anyway, whether you wanted to or not, in Monstro Giganto you're allowed to be just that. A ginormous kaiju fighting other equally as big monsters, entirely made out of C64's text mode characters. There may be only 4 of them, but they differ in stats and how they feel despite sharing the same movesets. Monstro Giganto features digitized speech too, which while not a surprise to any former C64 owners, may shock those new to the system. It released in 2021, it's loud, it's silly, and it's a total blast if you're into unusual games.
JoJo wins. Flawless victory.
Now this one is a showstopper, and for more than one reason. Epic Quest is not only one of the coolest title games ever, but it's also a massive platform adventure starring, you guessed it right, a pig on a heroic journey. And let me tell you folks, the graphics of this one are jaw-dropping. It wouldn't be an overstatement calling them peak for C64. It features huge levels, smooth animation, different weapons and pickups, very cool looking enemies and a soundtrack that could carry its own chiptune album. Released in 2023, Epic Quest is one of the most ambitious C64 games ever made. Time to slow things down with a surprisingly good classic-feeling adventure RPG hybrid. Lykia the Lost Island is a sprawling adventure with exploration, puzzles, item collection, and a story that feels like a lost NES-era classic. In fact, it has a very strong Legend of the Zelda vibes, minus all the action-based combat. It laser focuses on character interaction, dialogues and questing though, so if you're looking for something slower but deeper, it's a perfect choice. It released in 2022 and it's kind of a game you can sink hours into, proving that C64 can handle more than just quick arcade hits. Procedural generation on C64? Yes, please and thank you. Rogue 64 is a roguelike dungeon crawler where, as expected for the genre, every game feels and plays a bit different. It's a game I would have loved to have owned my C64 back then, and I would have played it maniacally for hours on end, diving into dungeons, fighting monsters, grabbing loot, and inevitably dying time after time again, and loving every second of it. It released in 2022, and it's a mashup of a modern take on the genre and a classic Rogue roots reimagined for retro hardware. And as you can see, it works rather beautifully. Tenebra is one of the most unique and interestingly designed games to ever grace the C64, and also one that would have annoyed me to no end. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sensitive to light at all, but the constant flickering is beyond infuriating to me and feels like a medieval times inspired torture. Anyway, Tenebra, conceptually speaking, is very atmospheric. It's a puzzle platformer in which you can only move through lit areas. Darkness is deadly, so you're constantly figuring out how to bring light sources with you to progress further. It may not sound particularly interesting when just spoken about, but it's actually super cleverly designed, even if simple looking, and it really nails that eerie vibe. Soulless to the Armour of Gods is kinda like stepping into a pixelated myth where you, a once mighty warrior, must reclaim divine armor scattered across a sprawling labyrinthian-like world in which every screen you visit feels like a treasure hunt that tests your wits and reflexes alike. It's grandiose in size, cinematic in scope and dramatic feeling. It's part puzzle, part platforming adventure with traps, treasures and just enough danger to keep you on your toes. Soulless 2 released in 2021, and it's got cutscenes, exploration and a sense of scale that makes you wonder how it's even possible on a lowly C64. And finally, the crown jewel of today's video, Eye of the Beholder. Yes, the classic Dungeons & Dragons RPG that graced our Amigas and PCs was ported to the C64 in 2022, and it's a technical marvel. It managed to capture the look and feel of the original with first-person dungeon crawling, party-based adventuring and that classic grid-based movement. Naturally, the graphics had to be simplified to fit within C64's capabilities, but even despite that, they look fantastic. Eye of the Beholder easily stands not only as an impressive release that's fully playable and genuinely impressive, but also a testament to C64's community's creativity and determination. And that pretty much rounds up our fun little video. 10 modern C64 games that prove that the old breadman isn't just alive, it's low-key thriving. From puzzle gems to epic adventures, people are still pushing this machine in ways that would have blown our minds back in the day. If you liked the video, hit those like, sub and bell icons below, it helps more than you know. Thanks a lot for watching, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.